Okay, so this is lesson 9, simplifying expressions. And what this lesson does is it incorporates the distributive property and the combining like terms lesson that we did yesterday. So you kind of have to do both. So remember that, just a quick recap here. When you do or see the distributive property, you will have parentheses, and that's kind of your clue that you have to distribute, is if you see parentheses. Combining like terms, okay, that's if you have the same base and exponent. Okay, so we're going to do both of these within one problem today. So to do now, you can pause the video and try these. These are a review of the distributive property. So if you paused and you tried them, number 1, you're distributing a -5. So -5 times 3x would be -15x. And then -5 times 2 would be -10. And now this, you cannot combine anything because one has an x and one does not. Okay, the next one, you're distributing a -6. So -6 times 4x is -24x. And then you're distributing -6 to -2. A -6 times a -2 is a +12. And then again, you can't do anything else because one term has an x with it and one does not. Okay, so we are going to incorporate what we just did in the do now into the actual lesson where we are asked to simplify the expression. So when you see the word simplify, you just want to condense the expression to the smallest amount of terms possible. So the first thing you have to always look for before anything else is, can you distribute? And distribution, like I wrote in the objective, just you're going to do this if you see parentheses. It's kind of your clue. Okay, so in this case, I have 2 sets of parentheses, one here and one here. So I have to do distribution twice for this problem. So for the first one, I have 4, and I'm distributing it to both the terms. So 4 times 2h is 8h, and 4 times 1 is just plus 4. Okay, for the second parenthesis, you're distributing a +3. +3 times 4h is a +12h. And then 3 times 7 is a +21. Okay, now you no longer have parentheses. So because you no longer have parentheses, you would move on to step 2, which is combining like terms. So you're going to see now, can you combine things to condense this problem? So the first thing I'm going to do is I look at my first term, which is an 8h. And then I kind of scan through the rest of my terms and I say, okay, well, here's 8h. Is there anything else that has just h with it that I can add to that? So I have here 12h. So if I have 8h plus 12h, if I add them up, because combining like terms now means we're going to add, I'd get 20h. And then I kind of scan through to see what I have left, and I have a +4, which I can add to a +21. Those are like terms. And that would be +25. And now you do not have any more like terms, so this would be your final answer. That is as simplified as you can get it. So again, simplification, you start off with something a little bit more complex looking, and you kind of condense down to this simple or simpler expression. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing here. And again, I wrote the steps on the side for you. So the first thing we're going to do is distribute if we have parentheses, which we do. So we have 2 sets of parentheses, the first one here and the second here. So in this first set of parentheses, we're going to take 7 and we're going to distribute that. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times x is 7x. For the second parenthesis now, just be careful. You're actually distributing a -4. So -4 times 5 is -20x. And then negative 4 times negative 2 would be a positive 8. Okay, now you're going to scroll through and you're going to check to see if you have like terms. So I know I started with the first term in the last example. Here we have a 21. We could do the same thing, 21, which I can combine with just plain old 8 over here because it doesn't have a variable. 21 plus 8 would be positive 29. Okay, and there's a reason why I wrote it in the back. Because again, I want to make sure I'm writing things in standard form, which would mean I'd want to put my x first. So 7x minus 20x, or 7 plus a negative 20, that would the answer to that would go first, which that would be negative 13x. Okay, so we always want to write your answers in standard form, which would mean our x would go first. The best way to get good at these, guys, is to keep practicing them. If you feel confident enough, pause the video, try one on your own, and then check your answer. See if you get it right. So this one looks a little different, but it's the same exact steps if you look on the side. The first one is to distribute. So you're only distributing if you see parentheses, which in this case we do. Okay, we're going to distribute a negative 2. So we are distributing negative 2 to the 5. Negative 2 times 5 would be negative 10. Negative 2 times a negative 4x squared would be a positive 8x squared. And then negative 2 times a positive 6x would be negative 12x. And notice that's where my parenthesis stops after that 6x. So I no longer am going to distribute. The rest of this problem, the negative 5x squared and the plus x, I'm just bringing that down. I'm not changing any part of that, right? Those are what they are. I didn't have to distribute to them, so I just kind of bring them down. Now what I can do is combine like terms. So in this case, let's start with the highest exponent because we want to put that first when we write our answer. So the highest exponent we see is the 2, the little 2. So we're going to start with 8x squared, and we're going to say, is there anything else in this problem that has an x squared with it? So if we scroll through, we do. We have negative 5x squared. So 8x squared minus 5x squared would be 3x squared. Okay, then I have a negative 12x and a positive 1x. And when I combine those two, I have negative 11x. And then I still have, or I didn't use yet, this negative 10. So that has to come down at the end. Now there's nothing else for me to combine, so this is my final answer. Okay, so again, now we're doing the exact same thing. So we're taking the terms on the outside. We have 2 sets of parentheses here. So we have this first one, and then we have the second one, both of which we need to distribute first to get rid of. So let's distribute this 3. So 3 times x squared would just be 3x squared. 3 times 2x would be a positive 6x. And 3 times negative 3 would be a negative 9. Okay, now if we go to the second parenthesis, you just have to be careful because you're distributing a negative 4. Negative 4 times 4x squared is negative 16x squared. Negative 4 times a negative 7x is a positive 28x. And negative 4 times 5 is a negative 20. Once now you've done that, you're just going to combine like terms, which just remember you are then adding. So we're going to start with our highest exponent, which is the x squared. So 3x squared and negative 16x squared. If we add those together, we would get negative 13x squared. Then we have 6x plus 28x which would be a positive 34x. And then lastly, we have a negative 9 and a negative 20. And if we add those, we would get negative 29. And now that would be your answer because there's nothing more that you can combine. Okay, so again, same exact type of question. Distribute, combine like terms. So we are in the first parenthesis going to distribute the 3. So 3 times x squared is 3x squared. And 3 times a negative 1 is a negative 3. Now into that second parenthesis, because you do have parentheses here, there is no number outside of it, but technically there is a 1 there, an imaginary 1. So you are distributing a negative 1. So negative 1 times x squared just makes it negative 1x squared. Negative 1 times a negative 7x makes that a positive 7x. And then a negative 1 times a 10 would be a negative 10. Now you're just going to add your like terms and starting with your highest exponent. So your highest exponent is x squared, which I can combine with negative 1x squared. So 3 plus a negative 1 would be 2x squared. Okay, then if I scroll down to the next highest exponent, it would be this 7x, but there is nothing else that has an x. So this 7x, we just have to remember to bring it down. And then we have a negative 3 and a negative 10, which would be negative 13. And then this would be our answer because there's nothing else that we can combine. Okay, so again, this one as well, we're going to distribute where we see parentheses and then combine like terms. So in this case, my parentheses are kind of smack dab in the middle of this problem. So when we distribute, this is the only piece of the problem that will change. So 4 times 2 would be 8x squared, and 4 times 7 would be a positive 28. Everything else that's in this problem, you can't forget about it. So what you have to remember to do for this is bring that all down. 5x in the front, the plus that was with my positive 8, the minus 6x squared, and the minus 9x. All has to come down with the problem. Then you're just at the same steps as you were before, where you're going to combine like terms now because you no longer have parentheses. So you're going to now add. Starting with the highest exponent, you have 8x squared and negative 6x squared. So 8 plus a negative 6 is 2x squared. And then we have 5x and a negative 9x, which is negative 4x. And we have a plus 28 that we bring down at the end. And this would be our final answer. And in this question, if you read it, it did say put it in standard form. So they're making you put it in standard form. Whereas the other ones didn't. We were just getting in the practice of doing that. All right, so this one actually involves a little bit more. So this one, I did give you steps for. It says subtract the polynomial first, and by doing keep, change, and combine like terms. So we are first going to find the difference with subtraction of these two here. Okay, so we have to do keep, meaning we're going to keep that whole first parenthesis the same. We're not going to change that whole first parenthesis. We are going to change my subtraction here to addition, and then we're going to change all these signs in the second parenthesis. Okay, they all change. Now you have to combine like terms, which means we are going to have to add. 3x squared gets combined with negative x squared. That would be 2x squared. Then we have negative 2x and a negative 3x, which is a negative 5x. And then we have 5 plus 2, which is 7. So then the question said that they wanted you to take the difference, meaning this answer that we just got, and multiply it by 3. So I kind of wrote that in my steps, and I said, okay, well, what they were asking us to do is take this whole thing, this answer, right? And they want us to multiply it by 3. So every term has to be multiplied by 3, which means we have to distribute it. So 3 times 2 would be 6x squared. 3 times a negative 5x is negative 15x. And 3 times 7 is 21. Now it says make sure it's written in standard form, which it is. We go from highest to lowest exponent. So that would be your final answer. Okay, number 8 says subtract 5x squared plus 9x minus 11 from, which is a switch word, 3x squared plus 8x minus 7 and expresses a trinomial. So this is still simplifying an expression or simplifying a polynomial, because we have to know to take this polynomial here and put it first. We're switching the order. We are subtracting, they told us that, this first polynomial. So 5x squared plus 2x minus 11. So now because it's subtraction, we have to also do keep, change. We can't do this straight off. So it'd be keep. So we're going to keep this whole first parenthesis the same. We're going to change the subtraction to addition, and then we're going to change all the signs in the parentheses. So positive becomes negative 5x squared, positive 2 becomes negative 2x, and a negative 11 becomes a positive 11. Once you're here, now it's just addition. So you're going to make sure you write it as a trinomial. We're going to go from highest exponent to lowest. So 3x squared and negative 5x squared would be negative 2x squared. 8x and negative 2x would be a positive 6x. And negative 7 and 11 would be 4. And then this would be your answer. And again, it said express it as a trinomial. Trinomial means 3 terms, which we do have. 1, 2, 3. All right, and then the last one just says which polynomial is twice, which means times 2. The sum, which just means we are going to add, of 4x squared minus x plus 1 and negative 6x squared plus x minus 4. So what I would do here is, I know I'm adding, so with like terms, you can just straight add. So if I took this one here and brought it underneath here, negative 6x squared plus x minus 4. Now I can just add these straight down, and it becomes a little easier for me. So 1 and negative 4 would be negative 3. Negative x and positive x actually cancel out, right? They disappear. They go to 0. And 4 minus 6 would be negative 2x squared. Okay, so again, this is the sum. Right? Now that they want me to do is actually take twice that. So I have to take this and I have to multiply it by 2. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4x squared. And 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And then this is actually multiple choice, so you'd be looking for that same answer. And if you look below, I didn't even realize I wrote this here, but I gave you the steps. I told you to add, which is what we did, right, to get our answer. Then I told you to multiply by 2 because twice equals multiply by 2, which is how we got this answer here. Okay, so all of these questions involved simplifying polynomials. Okay, if you have any questions, shoot me an email so I can help you or schedule an extra help.